I'm Benny Hill, Makerspace Lab Technician at Sylvania Campus, Portland Community College. Today we're going to learn about the 60 watt and 30 watt universal laser cutters and engravers. The print size on our 60 watt machine is 32 by 18 inches. On our 30 watt machine it is an 18 by 12 print area. So let's get started on laser cutting. Before you come into the Makerspace to cut or etch material, make sure your design is created and ready to print. And you're going to also need to make sure you have your material with you when you come into the space. Once you have your material in hand, you need to take some calipers and figure out the depth of your material. This will be important when we set up the Z-axis. Some materials may require masking, which we use large rolls of masking tape. This can prevent burn and damage to the material caused by smoke. So once you have the depth of your material and you have it masked off, you're ready to put it into the laser cutter. When you're placing your material in the laser cutter, be sure to remove any debris that may be left over from previous cuts. These can prevent your material from laying flat onto the surface of the laser. To turn the laser on, just click the activation engraver switch on the laser interface software. It'll take a few seconds for the laser to initialize. Once it's initialized, then you can use functions such as the focus view. So once you have your design in the laser interface, you can position that design on your material in one of two ways. The first one can be actually moving your material in the print bed to the location of the design. The second would be moving the design on the laser interface to a position where your material is already located on the print bed. So to ensure that your design is going to fit onto your material, we use the focus view icon here. This will create a blue X on your screen, and it will also send down a red laser pointer showing where that spot is on our material. It's really important to check all four corners and make sure that your design fits perfectly on your cutting surface. Focus view will not work if the laser door is closed. Neither the laser cutter won't work if the door is open. So the laser cutter has two cutting modes, raster and vector. Raster is going to be the setting that we usually set in black, and that is going to tell the laser to go back and forth all the way across your design. Raster is used to not cut all the way through the material, but usually just to etch into the surface of the material. The vector is more of like a dot that takes a walk around your material, cutting out the edges or parts that need to be cut away. I can set my raster and vector modes on the top right of my settings here. This is an example of raster, where the laser has gone across the material and just etched in, taking away a little bit of the surface of the material. The other mode is vector, which can cut through the material. You can see the negative space created by the vector cut lines on this material here. The first setting is power, how intense the laser light will focus. The second setting is speed, how quickly the laser will move as it cuts. PPI stands for pulses per inch. Although RI, it appears the laser is cutting at a constant stream, it is actually made up of hundreds of little pulses. A higher PPI can melt the edges of acrylic, giving a smoother cut. To change the different settings, you can use the slider on the screen. A lot of times it's easier to get accurate settings by typing it in, by highlighting the number, erasing it, and typing in what you want your setting to be. It's extremely important that you hit set after each color. This will set your settings and lock them into what they are going to be for that cut. Once you have your settings all set up, you're going to hit the set and OK, and you will be ready to cut your material. So once my design's all set up and ready to print, I'm going to go over to our ventilation system and pull up on the red switch. I like to leave the ventilation on for 5 to 10 seconds after a cut to ensure that all the fumes underneath the hood have been ventilated out. All materials act differently to the laser. We keep a board behind our laser cutter with some settings that we've used in the past. That does not mean that it's going to work perfectly with your material. To ensure for the best cut, you need to run a test cut on all of your cuts. So once my cut's finished, I want to leave the vent on for a good 5-10 seconds. I don't want to just open the hood right up. That's going to let fumes into the makerspace. So we're going to give it a little time just to vent out. We're going to kill the vent, and then we're going to give our cuts a little wiggle test. We want to make sure that our settings were correct and that the laser was able to cut all the way through the material. So to ensure that we get this cut done, we're going to place our finger onto one of the parts that has been cut, and we're going to pull up on the outside of the material. It looks like this was a good cut. If this did not cut, alright, by me placing my finger on here, we would keep this in the exact same position that it's in. We may be able to salvage the cut by running it again right on top of this and hopefully be able to cut right through that material. So just to be safe, we do the wiggle test. Looks like everything cut through fine. And we're ready to build our box. Also really important to make sure that we get all of the dropouts, our small little parts that may get left behind. We don't want to leave those behind for other people. It can create an uneven printing surface, and that's not what we're looking for. So make sure we clean those up and get those disposed of in the proper way. So after we've removed the material from the print bed, we want to clean our laser lens off. I put down a piece of paper or some type of flat material that can help cover up this honeycomb. We're going to remove these 3 small screws. The reason I put the paper down is so that the screws don't fall through the honeycomb. It's a pain to get those out of the honeycomb. After I get my screws off, I'm going to pull the lens out. I'm only going to be cleaning the outside of the lens, alright? Where the lens was exposed to particles that maybe could have collected on the lens during the cut. We have a collection of Q-tips next to the laser computer. We're going to put just 1 drop of cleaning solution onto the lens, and I'm going to roll that Q-tip, ensuring that there is a clean part of the Q-tip being used to clean the lens. If I need to use multiple Q-tips, that's something you may need to do. Going to place my lens back into its carrier. Tighten my screws up, and we should be ready to go. It's important that you get all the solution off of that lens. Our laser does not like liquid in the machine, and it will crack the lens if there is any liquids on that lens. So make sure you get all that solution mopped up with the Q-tips real good. So after you're done cleaning the laser out, you can do a little post-production work on your laser cuts by removing your masking material. After laser cutting wood, you might want to take some sandpaper to clean off any surfaces that may have been damaged by smoke. or to smooth any edges out. Alright, so if you run a long print and a lot of debris collects on the printing surface, make sure that you get some paper towels and a little bit of cleaner and clean off this surface. You will recognize there is a ruler along the top and the side. We want to make sure that we can read that so that people can utilize it to place the material in here in the proper position. So to clean out the riser bed, you can open the front door and pull the riser bed out. This can also be done if you're printing tall objects. You'll notice there are 2 rulers down here at the bottom. If you're printing something over a couple inches tall, you may have to remove the bed. It's important to know the printer will not work with this door open or with this door open right here. So to print without the riser, make sure these are both closed or you will not have a functioning laser. When placing the honeycomb back in, you want to make sure that the bed slides all the way in to our XY corner on the far top left of the bed. And close the door up. So when you're using the 30-watt laser, there's only a couple things you need to take note of that are a little different than the 60-watt. Number one is you're going to use this laptop computer workstation right next to the 30-watt laser. The other things you need to know about are the filtration is on the unit right below it, and you're going to activate that filtration by hitting this button right here. It is much quieter than our ventilation for the 60-watt. But you do need to make sure you have that filtration going. To clean the lens, you're going to lift up this small guard right here, and you're going to pull out the lens from only 2 screws right here. The other things you need to know is that if you are manually focusing the laser lens, there is a different height and there's a different tool you're going to use. It has 30-watt written on it. Make sure you use that when you're doing manual focus. Other than that, the major difference is going to be your settings on your power and speed are going to be different than the 60-watt, so that is not a direct translation from your 60-watt settings to your 30-watt. You're going to want to run a test print before you do any major cuts. That's our 30-watt universal. That ends our beautiful journey through Laserland.